You're listening to What's Up Digital Lending, the podcast that explores the exciting world of digital lending. We make a deep dive into the most important issues and talk to the leading minds of the ecosystem.
Hi everybody, my guest today in this episode number 18 is Christoph Steinbrich, Managing Director at DebtVision. This is a digital marketplace lender from Stuttgart in Germany where companies and institutional investors get connected. DebtVision's aim is making the process of marketing bonded loans efficient and transparent. My name is Konstantin Fabricius and I'm the host of this podcast. Before we start, listen carefully to the following please. The content of this podcast is expressly not to be considered investment advice, but is intended solely for your information. We do not assume any liability and will not share any profits. Okay, Christoph, welcome to the show.
Hello, Konstantin. Thank you very much for being guest in your podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's great to have you in the show. Let's start quickly with the introductory part. Christoph, please tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What's your professional background?
Yes, I worked before about 2 decades in the fixed income business unit of LBBW. LBBW is Landesbank Baden-Württemberg, is one of the, let's say, biggest banks in Germany. And worked there in securitization and debt capital markets. And so I was only a user of IT tools, yeah. So I never had in mind to be head of a small but powerful fintech, yeah. So therefore, it was a great challenge to bring that vision concept forward.
Okay, great. And I know that you have a passion for wine and even your own vineyard. Is it any good?
You are good informed. Yes, that's true. I had the luck to marry vineyards. So therefore, during the years, I helped my father-in-law also in the vineyards. And I discovered the passion inside of me to work also in and with the nature. Mm-hmm. And so therefore it was for me always a good, let's say, different activity to the banking business. And so I founded a small side business and working in the vineyards and still enjoyed. Yeah. And I have to say, I love it also that working in the agriculture business, yeah, because it's so many-sided. So therefore, it's great.
Yeah, perfect. Digital finance and vineyard. That's I like it.
Little side theme. We during my securitization time, we issued an SPV, which was called Weinberg. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Christoph. Just for the audience, how we move forward today. It's a very special podcast today because it's the very first time that we will be talking about a very special instrument, the so-called Schuldschein, or let's agree on bonded loan. And we have never had a podcast on bonded loans, and I am pretty sure that a huge portion of the audience has never heard about this. And so we will have a warm-up part on bonded loans. Afterwards, I would very much like to switch over to the investor side, as always. And after that, let's drill into DebtVision's business model. Okay, so let's start with the bonded loan. And Christoph, what exactly is a Schuldschein, or as we call it here today, a bonded loan? What is it? What do I have to know about it?
Basically, it's a loan. From a legal perspective, it's just a loan, yeah. If you want to compare it with a bond, yeah. So therefore, a bond is from a legal nature. It's a security, yeah. And a Schuldschein Darlehen is a loan, and the transfer of a Schuldschein happens by assignment. Yeah. So if you look at it from a pure legal perspective, it's a very, let's say, lean loan.
Okay. And what makes this instrument so interesting to borrowing SMEs? Why are they looking for bonded loans?
The Schuldschein-Darlehen or bonded loan, I like to use more the term Schuldschein-Darlehen because it stands so for itself. Yeah, so hopefully it's fine for you if using
absolutely.
Schuldschein-Darlehen. Yeah. Yes, the Schuldschein-Darlehen, I say it's a special niche, especially coming out, let's say, from the German-speaking area, Germany, Austria, Swiss. Yeah, it grows also into, let's say, Europe, yes, and beyond. Yeah, but still the core, the heart of the Schuldschein market is the so-called Dachregion, Deutschland, Österreich, Schweiz. And how could become this instrument, this financial instrument, so popular? You have to take a closer look how these areas are structured. Yeah, we have a lot of companies which have not a rating. Yeah, but they're, let's say, big companies, not that small units. Let's also medium and also bigger size companies in the German speaking areas. You can call it so-called Mittelstand. Mittelstand is broad expression, yeah, from to that. But there is very less companies have an external rating. Yeah? So therefore, if they need bigger amounts, a classical bond is expensive. And on the other hand, the banking sector in these countries is also dominated by that banking groups like Sparkassen and Volksbanken, smaller independent units. Yeah? And the Schuldschein-Darlehen connects these structures, let's say, perfectly, because these small banks, they can handle, from a credit perspective, unrated issuers. Yeah, that's pure credit business. So therefore, they have the credit departments. And on the other hand, the Schuldschein-Darlehen gave the corporates, the issuer, the possibility to lend money from these smaller banks in a very efficient way. Yeah, and so this is so it developed as an alternative to bonds. Yeah, due to that structure, small banks, lenders, and no external ratings.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. This explains why a bonded loan has become advantageous compared to other instruments such as loans and bonds. Okay, thank you very much. What can you tell us about the life cycle of a bonded loan? What do we have to know here?
Usually the life cycle is not very, let's say, special. The most issuers raise money in terms from 3 to 7 years. That's so the typical term from Schuldschein-Darlehen. Up to 10 years also, but then it becomes smaller amounts. Beyond 10 years, very rare. And so during this lifetime or life cycle, usually nothing really happens. But what they do during lifetime is they provide their financial statements to keep the investors up to date where the company is standing, and then you have interest payment dates, and so therefore it's really and it's bullet redemption. You have no redemption during the term. By the end of the term, the whole loan will be repaid in one sum. Yeah.
What can you tell us about interest rates?
We have let's say the market standard is that each term you offer to the investors, you offer a fixed term and a floating rate tranche. So each investor can pick what they like. So in most part of the transactions, you have for every term two tranches, a fixed rate and a floating rate tranche. From a pricing perspective, it's similar to a bond. You take the mid swap and adding a spread according to the credit profile of the issuer.
Okay, and what role does this instrument play in the market in terms of total volume and deal numbers, especially compared to loans and bonds?
It's compared with the bond market. It's a niche, it's a smaller market. Roughly, you can say that Schuldschein, the corporate Schuldschein market in Europe is about 10% of the bond market. This is a number which you can see now for, let's say, a long time. So the bond market is, in respect of terms, it's a broader market. Yeah, you have very big investors in the bond market. Yes, and in the Schuldschein market, you deal especially with financial institutions on the lending side. And in the corporate bond market, you have more asset managers. Yeah, so there is not that big overlap. Yeah, and so it's the bond market is quite bigger. Yeah,
isn't that interesting against the backdrop that it is privileged when it comes to MiFID, for instance, and one could assume that it is the better choice to take the bonded loan than compared to a bond, because a bond very often requires rating, and it is falling into scope of MiFID. So looking at these two requirements, which are pretty tough, my assumption would have been, and this is why I'm so astonished, that SMEs would decide in favor of bonded loans rather than bonds. But this is not reality. So why do they choose the stricter way?
These kind of investors, they have they have their investment policy over time developed guidelines how they can invest. I think this is a very elaborated way, and within these guidelines, and that's to have a bond which is have to be listed and all that stuff, and so if the instruments they are buying fulfill that policy or guideline, so for them it's very easy to buy bonds. You have to make a bit, let's say, groundwork, and if that is done, they can invest very fast, and because they are also looking for that external rating. So that makes for them their credit work is really zero or is very less. Yeah. And so for them, this market is clear. Yeah. And in the Schuldschein market, you have these non-rated entities. Yeah. You need a credit department which have to take the financial statements and look at it. And so they have to do all that groundwork in respect of credit, and this is something, let's say, the big investors in the past they never really developed for that kind of asset class these, let's say, capabilities, so they stay in that very strict but, let's say, clear policy of investing in bonds. On the other hand, on the other hand, you have the banks, which their core business is making credit or granting loans, and so for them it's their core business to do the credit work on a Schuldscheindarlehen also, and so they like more to use the Schuldschein because, and for financial institution, it's also easier to show it on the balance sheet. You have much less requirements in respect of valuation also.
Okay, we can resume that this is pretty much driven by the investors. right? So this is what I have understood.
Yeah, I would say that's in most case, or that's mostly the case. If you have a valid market, you need a product which the investor likes, and if the investor don't like it, you can develop a market. Yeah, and so that's you see with bonds and Schuldschein. You have a special, let's say, kind of investors, and then they can handle that product or not, and then they are active investors or not.
Okay, so let's drill a little bit deeper into investors, as you have just mentioned it. And yes, okay, the size of the bonded loan market is 10% of the bond market.
Roughly, yeah.
And who are the investors, and where do they come from? Is it an international community already that we are talking about?
Maybe first of all, we did not mention yet about the credit profile of the corporate or of the issuer. So the Schuldschein market is, let's say, from the credit profile, it's an investment grade market. Yeah. So, as we said, the corporates have no external ratings, but from their metrics, they are investment grade. So therefore, it's that's important because it makes also the Schuldschein instrument, let's say, very lean because it's senior unsecured debt. You have not special covenants or very rare or other structured stuff, maybe like you see in a high yield market or so.
Especially in the loan sector, right?
Yeah, or in the loan sector. So therefore, what is really and what the investors expect is an investment grade credit profile. Yeah. You cannot sell Schuldscheine from, let's say, sub-investment grade investors in the Schuldschein market. Yeah. The investor base is, as I said, is mostly or is dominated by financial institutions. In respect of numbers, as I said, the banking groups, Sparkassen and Volksbanken, are the dominant groups. Yeah.
Just for the audience, savings banks and municipal banks.
Yeah, exactly. Or savings banks, or cooperative banks.
Cooperative banks,
right. Yeah, exactly. But also the classic European banks are, let's say, the third biggest groups. Yeah, and in respect of volume, these classical banks are also, let's say, the biggest group. Yeah, the savings banks and cooperative banks, they have smaller ticket amounts. Yeah, so therefore the business banks are the main dominant. And then there is a remaining niche of about 5 to 10%. Of that universe, which are institutional investors like insurances, asset managers, pension funds, but they are looking more on the longer terms. But they are also they like to have an external rating. So sometimes you have also issuers with external ratings.
Okay. Very important for investors to know what happens in the event of payment problems or if the debtor becomes insolvent. What do we have to know with respect to these questions?
Due to the fact that it's very high credit quality, this fortunately, this is not a big issue in the Schuldschein market. But sometimes, yes, you can also have distressed or debt. In these cases, it's important to have also somebody, let's say, which organizes communication processes from the issuer to the investors. Yeah, there are no special, let's say, under German law, special rules which organize this automatically. Yeah. So therefore, in these rare cases where you have that, sometimes one of the arranging banks can do that, or they hiring other service providers, which helps to facilitate negotiations between investors and the issuer.
Okay, interesting. And is there any secondary market for bonded loans?
There is a secondary market, but what is the nature, the investment nature of these investors? And the investors which are buying Schuldscheine, they have these loans in their loan book on the balance sheet. So it's not intended for sale. Also, the nature of these investors, it's hold to maturity. So considering there's not that much supply in the market because the Schuldscheine, let's say, are closed within the balance sheet. Yeah. So if there's supply in the market, then maybe an investor chooses to say, okay, I want to stop the Schuldschein investment business. I have to restructure maybe my balance sheet, and this is a kind of business I would like to sell also because it's good credit quality and I can reduce my balance sheet there. And so mostly it's driven by, let's say, so strategic decisions. Yeah. Or if there's in these rare cases where it's let's say a more issue with problems, and then somebody wants to sell that, but then you have also other buyers which buying these kind of credit stuff. Yeah. So in a nutshell, there is a secondary market, but a very muted secondary market.
Okay. So thank you very much. As far as this warm-up part and the investor perspective is concerned. So what I have learned now is it is a very special product, somewhere between loans and bonds. And it's not too big, but it's relevant. It's relevant for specific SMEs looking for financing. And it's interesting enough for the international institutional investors community. So this is what we can, how we can summarize it.
Yes, maybe in respect of the investors universe, what we see is that for banks, for example, from Asia, it's a very good opportunity to invest in the European economy. Yeah? So these kind of investors, China, Japan, India, Korea, Taiwan, they discovered that market to build up a loan book with very, let's say, high grade or good quality European corporates. And so therefore, from investor perspective, it grew also then international in the past year. And that also helped the Schuldschein market to grow like the bond market also. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an important message as well. And notwithstanding this, when I prepared this podcast, I realized that the bonded loan already is an international product because it has become quite popular. Not only in Germany, but also abroad in all those countries in Central Europe. And why not appealing to all other SMEs in Europe and only to German ones? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Let's now switch over to Debt Vision's business model, as we have now drilled really in depth as regards the function and the functionality of the bonded loan. What exactly is Debt Vision's business model? So why do we have Debt Vision today?
When we developed that vision, we looked at the process, how, especially in the first stage, what happens during marketing a Schuldschein. And so we saw there is a syndication of a loan to a very broad base of investors, maybe 1,000 investors around. And they use, let's say, that the instruments from the past, I would say. You have a telephone, you make email. There was sometimes fax machines, yeah. So a lot of channels, how you communicate with the investors. And so therefore it was it's very straightforward to say, okay, a platform makes sense to establish a platform, a marketplace, put all these functions in that platform, that you have these point of transaction, one point of transaction, so that you can reduce these several instruments, or any challenges to bring information from A to B, if you have these one point of information. And so we integrated everybody which is involved in the process on that platform to bring them directly together to make the whole process of marketing a Schuldschein more transparent, more direct. By the end, also more convenient for everybody, and also a little bit faster then. And that's what, let's say, the first focus for us was to make this happen. And that's what we have done today.
Okay, so it is a marketplace for debtors, investors, and arrangers, correct?
Exactly. So every party involved in a process of marketing a Schuldschein is a user of the platform. This is what we have today. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so it is, when it comes to that vision, about efficiency of the whole process, right? And to get it as efficient as possible.
Yes. We also talking about the user experience. Yeah. So therefore, in these kind of business, what can digitalization provide? I think it can provide in the B2B finance business efficiency, yes, and a better user experience. I think these are the two main reasons today what new technology can provide to the parties working on that specific product.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the role of the arranger, is it still the same on your platform? I ask you this because in the analog world, there the arranger plays a very important role. And when it comes to platformization of a business, it's always also about reducing the parties involved. So here we have 4 different parties. It's once again the debtor, the investor, it's the arranger, and it's a platform itself. Yeah. So one could think, okay, why not taking one player out of the game? Yeah. But what is, with respect to this kind of business, you're thinking about it?
Yeah. In B2B finance, you have to take a look at what is decisive for an issuer to say, I use this party or this technology to raise money. In this business from the Schuldschein market, as I said, the companies, that's not that small enterprises, these are medium or bigger sized enterprises. They have also strict rules how they work together with their banks. Yeah. And these kind of business is a typical side business. Yeah, for these banks the arranging banks are the core banks of the issuers. And this is a very, let's say, stable environment. And so therefore the issuer who decide which way they want to go, it's important for them to have a strong group of core banks around them. And so they decide to use their core banks and, let's say, not platforms to making their Schuldschein. So I think you have to look on each product separately, how the decision is made by the party who wants to raise money. Yeah. For example, issuers who issue very frequently, there it's another decision, maybe using platforms or not. But in this corporate business, they do that not so very often. Corporates are not frequent issuers usually. And so therefore, maybe every 2, 3, or 4 years, they make such a transaction. And therefore, they want a partner on their side, which grants them also security or execution, that you get a safe execution, and therefore it's the bank. And so from a platform perspective, you have to look not to the issuer, you have to look to the bank, because what you are doing is we facilitate the process of the arranger. Yeah, so the people or the platform like us, which our client is the arranging bank in the first stage, and not the issuer. Investor, a little bit other case, but especially we are working close together and provide efficiency for the arranger and their marketing process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. Thank you very much for elaborating on this. What is the current state of digitization of bonded loans? Where are we?
What the platforms provided is they digitalize the processes, not the product. So this is another issue. Therefore, the product is as we know it. Yeah, no tokenization or stuff like that today. And so if you are looking at the processes, I would say in the marketing process, 90% plus, 95% is done by the platform. So therefore, we are very far in making this process digital. Settlement is still something which is, let's say, in a rollout phase. That's what we are working also currently on, to facilitate signing loan contracts by digital signatures and so. This is something which comes now. That's a further, let's say, makes it that settlement process more easier. Yeah. And during the life cycle process, I would also say in a normal life cycle, you are in the area of 95% digital process. Yeah.
And when do we see the 100%? What do you think? How many years from today?
Okay, if the challenge is today, it's not tech or which limits. What limits is that you get all users with you, that you can onboard them on the new process. This is, I would say, more the challenge, especially if we are talking about digital signing of loan contracts. There are a lot of investors which have no internal guidelines how to handle that. Yeah, that makes for us challenging to get 100% because the users are not ready from their side to handle these new techniques, let's say. And we made the experience that the clock is ticking a little bit slowly in the B2B finance, maybe than in retail. But I would expect in the next coming maybe 5 years, we would be really then nearly 100%. It's also a question, for example, if we are talking about what happens on the transfer of money side, digital currencies also. This is also, I would say, if we can also transfer money in a digital way, and also talking about to digital size the product itself, then latest if we can do that on that area also, then you are at 100%. Yeah.
When we talk about the 100%, this brings me, of course, to blockchain. What role does blockchain play in this business model? What can you tell us about this?
Currently, it plays no role. A couple of years ago, we started also with with a project to have a blockchain Schuldschein, and these proof of concept we made there. It was, yes, it works. Yeah, so therefore it's you can use this technology also for Schuldscheine. But the problem or the challenge with which everybody I would say, makes the experience when using blockchain for their products. It's very hard to bring it currently into a live mode that you can use it for every transaction. There is missing standards, still quite legal questions. So the acceptance in a broader way from investors, but also from issuer side, is not yet possible because something's still missing. And so that's so these kind of projects, they do not come in that live mode. Yeah. And so let's see, as I said, maybe digital currency will help. Yeah, I'm convinced it will help, but then we will see which use cases then will succeed, or where blockchain will succeed then. Yeah.
Okay, one last question, and I have to ask you this. This concerns the development of this business as regards the marketplace lending platforms. I found that in 2019, there were still more than 10 or even 15 fintech companies in this segment doing business. But today there are only a handful, and we see here a very similar development to that of the municipal loan market. What can you say about this development? Why this heavy reduction down to just a couple of fintech lenders? What happened?
Okay, when you're starting a platform, biggest hurdle is you need flow. You need flow in your platform. That's the biggest hurdle. So it's you need deals to get traction from the investors. On the other side, you need an investor base on your platform to attract deals to get on your platform. The typical chicken egg problem. So, and then as a platform, and you want to establish a platform, you have to find your way how you can generate this flow. Yeah, that you can bring your wheel spinning. And if you do not have the channels to create that flow, then the time will sort you out. Yeah, and that's what we saw in that business. Yeah, and as I said, in the Schuldschein business, the platforms had to focus on the arranging banks, because the arranging banks are generating that pipeline of content. And because then they bring the content onto the platform, and you as a platform and as a fintech, you have to convince them that you can solve their problems or their challenges to make the processes more efficient, better. Yeah. And if you can ensure that, or you can convince good arranging banks doing that, then you can jump over that hurdle, because then you get your wheel spinning. And most of the platform, it was too less flow they generated on their platform. And so by the time then it's over. Yeah. That's, I would say that's the natural way how these markets work. Yeah. And then you can ask how many platforms you can need in a market.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
So how many platforms are we going to see in a couple of years?
To be honest, for a transaction, for one transaction, you need only one platform. Yeah. So this was also in the first in the first stage of that platform content. Many thought to have several platforms for one deal, but it makes the processes inefficient. Yeah, it was stupid. Yeah, and then we from that vision said, okay, we have to follow one big rule, one deal, one platform. Yeah, to find a way that it's not crazy how this happens, and then everybody realized, that's helpful, and so we have now this agreement under all. If there's one deal, you need only one platform, and then that's fine, and so, but you can have overall in the market, you can have more marketplaces or platforms, This is something all participants, issuers and investors, can handle really good. So that's also a question, how many deals you have in that market in a year. Yes, and then you can have also more than 1, 2, or 3 platforms. Nowadays, it's for the investors, they want to buy Schuldschein, and it's a, let's say, straightforward process, and they can handle it to work in that deal on that platform and in the other deal on the other platform. That's not that big challenge, but by the end of the day, I think there is also a limited number for these platforms, because they have to be profitable by the end of the day. And so the question is, how many transactions get each platform every year. And so I think there's a natural consolidation. And today we have, let's say, in the Schuldschein market, 3 platforms, and they can live with that. So I would say this is now a very stable situation we have there right now.
Okay, 3 platforms. Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Christoph. We have come to the end of today's show. Thank you so much for staying with me here on this podcast. It was really a huge pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Konstantin, for being your guest. And hopefully I could bring you the Schuldschein world a little closer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Yeah.
And thank you everyone for listening. You have hopefully enjoyed this episode as well. Please make sure you subscribe to our podcast and save the date already today. The 3rd Digital Lending Summit is going to take place in Frankfurt on 1st of October. More information in our show notes. Stay safe and sound, and see you soon.